Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking a really dense, incredibly high-stakes narrative from our ancient source material, and I have to tell you, it is as thrilling as it is heartbreaking. We're exploring a story of sudden catastrophe, deep betrayal, and the profound, crushing weight of destiny. So get ready because we're going to break down an absolutely dramatic sequence of events straight from the heart of the text. Okay, I want you to start by just picturing this. You're exhausted, you're completely lost in a terrifying wilderness, and you have finally found a safe haven. But then, in the dead of night, you're suddenly jolted awake by an unforeseen, horrific catastrophe. You literally narrowly escape with your life, while utter devastation unfolds all around you in the pitch dark. But wait, imagine the dust finally settles, the sun comes up, and the very people you just survived this harrowing ordeal with turn their eyes on you. Instead of offering any comfort, they suddenly blame you for the slaughter. They literally want your blood. And you know what? This is exactly the astonishing plight of our central figure, Damayanti. Part 1. The Deceptive Lotus Lake. Okay, let's dive into this. So, our story starts with a massive, incredibly weary merchant caravan and a lone, destitute woman named Damayanti who has joined up with them. After days of traveling through this dense and terrible forest, they stumble upon what seems like, well, a perfect oasis. The text paints a picture of absolute tranquility. They find this large lake, fragrant with lotuses, with pure sweet water, abundant grass for the animals, and cool shade filled with singing birds. It's idyllic, right? So naturally, the exhausted, toil-worn caravan decides to just lay down their burdens and halt for the night. Part 2. The Midnight Elephant Stampede. But, as you might guess, this peaceful sanctuary is a total trap. Let's walk through the timeline of this ill-fated night. The caravan halts in the evening. By midnight, everything is hushed. The travelers are all in a deep slumber. But then, a herd of wild elephants approaches to drink. And these wild elephants have temporal juice trickling down their faces, which is an ancient marker of deep aggression and frenzy in elephants. Through the trees, they spot the caravan's domesticated elephants. Infuriated, they charge. And the text describes this charge with a force compared to literal mountain peaks rolling down towards the plain. The resulting stampede is a bloodbath. The forest paths are completely blocked by sleeping men. Suddenly, these massive beasts are crushing people while they're still insensible on the ground. The merchants, entirely blinded by sleep, are fleeing into copses and woods in total panic. Men are slain by tusks, crushed by trunks, and trampled under giant legs. Camels and horses are killed, and the panicked merchants even begin crushing one another in the dark. They're screaming that a great fire has broken out, they're scattering their jewels, crying out for rescue. It is pure chaos. Part 3. Survivors seek a scapegoat. So, Damayanti wakes up absolutely wild with fright as this world-shattering slaughter rages all around her. When morning finally comes, the traumatized survivors gather, and this brilliantly illustrates human nature. They desperately need to make sense of this senseless tragedy. Look at the two theories they come up with. First, they assume divine wrath. Did we fail to worship the local forest deities or spirits like the Yaksha King or the Manibhadras? But then, their panic curdles into something much darker. They turn to the strange woman among them. They actually accuse Damayanti of being a demon in disguise, like a Rakshasa or Pishacha, who orchestrated this dreadful illusion through dark magic. Listen to the terrifying intensity of the surviving merchants in the text here. If we again see that wicked destroyer of merchants, we shall certainly slay that injurer of ours with stones and dust and grass. Damayanti isn't just being blamed, guys. She is in immediate lethal danger from the very people she just traveled with. Part 4. Damayanti questions her destiny. Completely overwhelmed by terror and shame, Damayanti flees right back into those beast-filled woods, and the narrative now pivots from immediate physical danger to profound psychological torment. Alone in the wilderness, she delivers this truly heart-wrenching lament. She cries out, "Of what misdeed is this the consequence?" She searches her memory, and she realizes she has never done so much as a little wrong to anyone. She's desperately trying to find logic in an entirely illogical universe. Now, what's super fascinating here is how the ancient text explains her suffering. She rationalizes her terrible situation through the lens of destiny. That's the belief that current suffering is the inevitable consequence of great sins committed in a former life. To her, this is literally the only way to explain the loss of her husband's kingdom, being separated from her children, and now surviving this horrific massacre. It brings up an ancient existential crisis that still really resonates today. Is misfortune just bad luck, or is it destiny? Damayanti mentions hearing from old men that no person dieth ere his time, which is how she explains surviving the stampede at all. She even starts to wonder if she's being punished by these celestial Lokapalas, the gods she actually rejected at her wedding so she could marry her mortal husband, Nala. Part 5. A Refugee in Chidi. Oppressed with grief, looking pale as the autumnal moon, Damayanti travels with a few surviving Brahmanas and finally arrives toward evening at the mighty city of Chedi, ruled by the truth-telling King Suvahu. Her arrival is, well, striking to say the least. She enters the city clad in only half a garment. She's lean, her hair is completely disheveled and dust-soiled. Her destitute, almost maniac-like appearance is so unusual that a mob of curious city boys actually begins following her through the streets. But she is seen. From a palace terrace, the Queen Mother spots Damayanti surrounded by this crowd. And despite the dirt and the apparent madness, the Queen Mother recognizes an underlying celestial beauty. She sends her nurse to rescue Damayanti, describing her as a Shri, which is a goddess-like presence with large eyes. When the nurse brings her in, she marvels at her, saying, "Thou shinest like lightning in the midst of the clouds." Save for the moment, Damayanti shares her tragic backstory, explaining exactly how she ended up like this. Her husband had desperately gambled away his entire kingdom at dice. Devotedly, she followed him into the forest, sharing just a single piece of cloth between them. But while she slept, he cut the cloth in half and abandoned her, doing her a terrible wrong. And now she's wandering, burning in grief, just trying to find this lord of her heart, who is, as she describes, of hue like the filaments of the lotus.
Part 6. Sanctuary on strict conditions.
Moved to pity, the Queen Mother offers Damayanti a place to stay while the royal men search for her missing husband. But so the crucial point is how Damayanti responds. Think about this. She is a penniless, traumatized refugee who just escaped a mob. Yet she doesn't just meekly accept charity. No, she lays down fierce, ironclad boundaries. She declares, "I will not eat the leavings on any dish. I will not wash anybody's feet. I will not speak with other men. And if any man solicits me over and over again, he must be punished with death." I mean, she completely reclaims her agency and her power right then and there. And the resolution here is just brilliant. Instead of being offended by these intense demands, the Queen Mother is actually thrilled. With a glad heart, she says, "Thou hast done well in adopting such a vow." She accepts absolutely every condition and makes Damayanti a companion, a Sirene 3D, to her own daughter, Sunanda. Finally, Damayanti is treated with the respect she deserves and allowed to live in the palace without anxiety. It's just an incredible arc, isn't it? From a helpless victim of a stampede to a woman who commands her own sanctuary. And it leaves us with a really powerful question. If you were stripped of absolutely everything by fate, disaster, and betrayal, what boundaries would you set to reclaim your dignity? Damayanti's story from ancient literature shows us the unyielding power of self-worth, even in the absolute darkest of times. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you all next time.